Is done later? I know, right? Well, welcome everybody. So many faces today. All our officers. It's really a nice sight to see. So we're going to adjourn, start our meeting. It's Tuesday, April 16th, the Borough Council meeting. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Virginia, can you do roll call?
Mayor Wallace?
Present.
Captain Price Engelhardt?
Present.
Ellen Alaho?
Present.
Melissa Johnson?
Here.
Marie Kelso?
Here.
Andrew Lubin?
Here.
Luke McKee?
Present.
Scott Robinson?
Here.
John Vitarelli?
Here.
Our Borough Solicitor?
Here.
And our Borough Manager.
Present.
Thank you.
I also just want to announce that we had executive session dealing with personnel issues.
We had an executive session discussing personnel matters, litigation matters, and labor negotiations.
Okay, so now comes the fun part. I'm going to turn this over to Chief Simpson. We have some presentations for our officers. So go ahead, Chief Simpson.
Thank you and good evening. And great, I'm sorry? It's on, can you not? All right. Bring it a little closer. All right. Good evening, welcome, and thank you very much for joining us here tonight for this wonderful occasion to recognize some new employees from the police department and some special recognitions following that. So tonight, I want to draw on these words. These are something actually I've heard throughout my 40-year career and something I think that we can think about and attach to what we're seeing here tonight. You were called, you served, and tonight we're going to count your deeds. So with that, we're going to start out with the called by celebrating the 3 new hires of the Morrisville Borough Police Department. This is not a profession for everyone. It takes a special person. And it is abundantly apparent across the nation that there's a shortage of people called to law enforcement. We consider ourselves fortunate to have these 3 new people of character join our ranks. I'm going to call you up one at a time. Mayor Wallace, would you please join me down front here? All right, officers, when I call your name and your family members, hopefully are present. All right. You got it. Right order. All right. We're going to start with Officer Matthew Leonhauser. He'll be joined by his parents. One will be holding the Bible and the other will be pinning his badge. Matthew Leonhauser is a 24-year-old Langhorne native, class of 2018 from the Chamonix High School. From 2018 to 24, Matthew proudly served 6 years in the Army National Guard as an 11B infantryman, say that several times, as well as the Military Honor Guard. From 2019 to 24, he worked 5 years at Middletown Township as a community service officer. Matthew completed the Temple Amber Police Academy fall of 23. Shortly after, began part-time police officer employment with Tullytown Borough. He enjoys playing soccer in his free time. He enjoys playing basketball and softball leagues in the area. Matthew is a third-generation police officer and comes from a large family of police officers in Bucks County. Congratulations, Mayor. Yes, that's correct. There you go. I'll speak loud.
All right. So we're going to do left hand on the Bible, right hand up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're going to repeat after me, okay? All right. I, say your name,
I, Matthew Leonhauser,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations. Thank you.
All right, next I'm going to ask or invite Amanda DeLuca up front. She'll be joined by her parents. Following the Bible will be her mother Deborah, pinning the badge will be her father David. Amanda has been in law enforcement for 4 years, most recently employed by the Temple University as a full-time police officer. She's a graduate of Westchester University with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. She enjoys spending time with family and friends, snowboarding, swimming, fishing, and outdoor activities. In addition to these hobbies, she's enjoyed volunteering around the Temple University.
Sorry, guys. All right, you repeat after me, okay? I state your name.
I, Amanda DeLuca,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
All right, and finally, I'd like to invite Dominic, I'm going to butcher the last name, Turnowski, and his parents up front, please. Joe's, I believe, Dominic's father, Joe, will be holding the Bible, and his mother will be penning the badge. Dominic grew up in Levittown, a graduate of Pennsylvania High School in 2018. He graduated from Bucks County Community College in 2020 with an associate's degree in criminal justice and transferred to Westchester University. He graduated from Westchester University in 2022 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. After graduation, he enrolled in Temple Municipal Police Academy, where he graduated in March of 2023. He then accepted a full-time offer with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, where he worked for 1 year in the Transportation Division. While working there full-time, he also worked part-time as a police officer for Bristol Borough Police Department. While off-duty, he enjoys watching his favorite Philly sports teams and hanging out with his family and friends. I like your hobbies better than the other ones.
I state your name.
Dominic Krzyzanowski,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the Constitution of the State of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge the duties of this office with fidelity.
You know, on behalf of council, we're just very happy to have all our new officers join the department. Good luck and be careful out in the streets.
I'm gonna make an
All
announcement.
right. I'd like to add, it's no small effort to hire police officers, let alone 3 at one time. So thank you to all the administrative staff, but particularly to the Civil Service Commission. Barbara, thank you for your assistance in getting this done. And as the President Council said, best of luck and thank you.
Go ahead, Judith.
Please don't go anywhere, everyone. I would like the officers to please come back up where the mayor is, Chief Simpson, and all of Borough Council, please. Mayor, Borough Council, I would like to have the girls from the department please take one photo of everyone. So officers, if you could please come back up. Chief Simpson, Council, could you please come down? I said officers.
You did say girls.
Oh, I'm sorry. Girls in the office. Oh, my goodness. No, they're the staff. Sure. Yeah, they'll take a picture.
All right.
Audience, we do have one more.
We got 2 more.
We do have one more award, 2 more awards for some other officers. So if people would like to stay, that would be fantastic. Nobody listens.
All right. Now we're going to move on to the third key word in the sentence I said earlier, that you were called, you served, and now we count your deeds. Next, we move on to serving. We're going to recognize the life-saving efforts performed by Officer Lou Hallis. On January 8th of this year, Officer Hallis was dispatched to the Calhoun Street Bridge for a person in distress and threatening suicide. As Officer Hallis positioned himself near the Bridge Commission lot, he observed the subject jumped in. Officer Hallis threw a life preserver, which ultimately led to the rescue and the saving of this man's life. It is my honor and privilege tonight to have a small part in recognizing Officer Lou Hallis for his service to the Morrisville Borough community, and we'd like to offer this plaque and ribbon as a symbol of our gratitude. Congratulations, Lou.
Hang on one second. We need more photos.
With council.
Council, Mayor,
Thank
Chief.
you to Officer Hallis also for this great efforts that you took, and also welcome to our newest police officers. We're excited to have you on board. We're super excited for the change that Morrisville has started to become. So thank you all.
Let them get organized first. Takes me 3 seconds to walk over.
Thank you.
Now we move on to deeds.
Yes.
I'd like to invite Officer Erica McIntyre up front, retired. Give her a round of applause. All right. The Morrisville Borough Police Department extends congratulations to Officer Erica McIntyre for her retirement and for after serving many deeds, Morrisville Borough for more than 24 years. Officer McIntyre was an invaluable member of our law enforcement officer community, law enforcement family. The number of deeds are far too many to count. There is no doubt that she touched the many lives and many crime victims and residents throughout her time here as a police officer. Tonight, in recognition for your accomplishment and a symbol of our appreciation for your service, Mayor, Council, and the Police Department award you your retirement badge and identification, your credentials. Congratulations and thank you for your service.
Okay, and again, don't go anywhere. One more photo, please. One more photo, please.
Let them organize.
As we're gathering everyone for the photo, I also want to thank Officer McIntyre for her years of service. It does not go unnoticed. Thank you for coming back so we can then present you with this. Thank you.
All right. So we're not quite over. All right. Sorry. Okay. Speaking of deeds, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the hard work performed by the administrative staff, Kathy President, Nicole Tiberio, who have held this place together under some pretty stressful times in the last 5 months. I know it's not easy getting to know me as their interim police chief, but on behalf of the Morrisville Borough and the men and women of the police department, Nicole and Kathy, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chief Simpson. Okay, on to announcements. After all that excitement. So I'm welcoming RNC Multi-Services LLC. It's a convenience store, and they just opened up at 118 West Bridge Street. So everyone go and check them out. I also just want to remind everyone that this Saturday, April 20th, Kalpuli Talhuzitzel Earth Day festivities are happening down at the corner of Philadelphia and Delmore from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's always nice to see, so everyone please come join them. On April 21st, on Sunday, there's going to be a spring tree planting at 10 a.m. at Williamson Park. May 4th at Greystones, there's going to be a woods cleanup at 10 a.m. meeting at the corner of Crown and Highland Avenue. And on May 11th, a busy day, spring nature walk at 10 a.m. at the Riverfront Preserve at the corner of Philadelphia and Delmore. And the NBA car show starts at 4:30 till 8 p.m. on East Bridge Street. So lots to do this coming up month. Okay, community outreach. We have a zoning hearing board, a remainder of a 3-year term that expires on 1/8/27. We have a letter of interest from Michelle McGowan. Do I have any nominations? I will nominate Michelle McGowan.
A second.
Oh, you don't have to second the nomination.
Okay.
That's okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Congratulations, Michelle. You are now not the alternate, but sitting on the board. And because Michelle is now sitting on the board, we have a 1-year, 3-year appointment alternate that is going to expire on 1/4/27. So get your letters of interest in if you're interested in sitting on the zoning board. Okay, so public comment on agenda items. I'm going to make another little change that anyone who has a public comment, it will be discussed as the agenda item is called. But before we get to that, the engineering report, we have Kurt Schroeder of Gilmore Associates, and he's going to talk about road paving in Morrisville. We had some mishaps in the first ward in terms of Pico came along and they dug a trench I don't know how long ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, and they only paved half the road, but in looking at it, we realized that the other halves of the road needed to be done. So Kurt's just going to fill us in on what we can do in the borough.
Good evening, Kurt Schroeder with Gilmore Associates. With me this evening is also Jacob Brigg, who's been helping with a lot of the work in the borough over the years, but he is handing out right now a few pieces of information. We were asked to look at planning a road program for either this year or for several years, because there's a lot of roads that need to be done. So we have a recommendation of a road program this evening, but we're also here to answer any questions, and we can change this proposed approach if there's desires to do that. But as Council President said, PICO did come in and worked on several roads. They replaced gas mains, and many years ago the borough adopted requirements for when utility companies come in and excavate our roads. And before those standards were adopted, they only would repair the trench that they installed. But we do have a standard now where they have to do the full lane width that they're within. So that equated to about half the roads getting resurfaced. So they followed the requirements. They got the necessary road opening permits, and they did that paving several weeks ago. So we also put together, we've been maintaining a road paving history map. So you guys have one of the 11x17s that show roads that were paved in 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2023. There's also some roads that were paved by Morrisville Municipal Authority in 2018 and 2019. And then PennDOT paved some of their roads in 2019 and 2020. So that gives you a little snapshot. It's a little hard to see the colors there, but that gives you a sense of how many roads have been paved in recent history, and then how many roads are left to be paved. But in 2018, we were also asked, and we pulled this information out. That's the 11x17 that has a construction cost estimate of $5.2 million. We put that together in 2018. We did not update the costs, but I would say that just kind of looking at it, it's probably pretty close. So if we were going to pave all the rest of the borough roads that haven't been paved since these records have been maintained, it would cost about $5.2 million. So that's not in the cards in the foreseeable future, but we looked at just the PICO roads with West Palmer Street also on that list. So that's the 8.5 by 11 cost estimate that shows what could be done this year for a budget of around $900,000 to $1 million. So that would be the other half of the roads that were paved by PICO, West Palmer Street, and we also included Carlisle Drive and West Maple Ave. And that's a corresponding map that you'll see labeled 2024 road paving map. So that shows the locations of the roads, the limits of those roads, and then this would be the corresponding cost estimate. And these estimates are based on bids that we recently opened in 2024. So we're feeling pretty confident that it's the right budget to apply to this road network. So within that scope is 1.5 inches of road milling, and we estimated 5% for base repair. So after we mill the road, we go out with a loaded triaxle dump truck and look for soft spots in the roadway, and we'll do a full depth repair if we find those problem areas. So we budget 5% of the road would be a safe bet for estimating that repair work. And then we also put in a 25% leveling course. So that's basically either like a scratch coat. After you mill it, sometimes you start pulling up some of the stone base beneath it, so you can come in and give it a nice skim coat of smooth surface so that you can apply the 1.5-inch wearing course on a nice smooth base. So with all of those line items and quantities, with 2024 pricing, it came out to the base bid amount $909,000, and if we did the alternate bids roads, it would be about $1,029,000. So if this is the scope that the Borough Council would be interested in pursuing this year, and the budget was available to do that, we could proceed by putting together the public bid package to go out for public bid sometime in the early summer, and construction would happen toward the end of the summer into the fall.
So you're going to have 10 roads here for $1 million. So how many roads after the 10 roads are done would need to be done? If the whole borough was done, do you know? I know that I'm kind of throwing you.
Yeah, I don't have the data broken down by roads or road segments, but you can see just in the map of the colored map, it shows what's been paved since 2018.
Yeah, that's hard to see. Yeah, it's hard to tell on the copy.
That were completed. So 17 roads have been paved since 2018.
How many?
17 have
17?
been paved since 2018. But I think your question was how many more would still need to be paved, and I don't have that quantity, but I can say that based on the overall cost estimate of $5 million and this current estimate of $1 million, that it would be about $4 million more dollars would need to be spent to pave the rest of.
So about 40 roads. I mean, how many roads in the borough? 40 roads?
It's probably a reasonable estimate.
Okay. So what if we did all for 40 roads over the next couple of years? Like the borough doesn't have $10 million, but, $5 million, I'm sorry, $5 million. I don't know what I was thinking. But I know there are municipal bonds that you could get in order to pay for these kinds of things. Is that possible? Is that feasible? And like, how many years would that take if we did a schedule?
Yeah, so we've done that in the past. In Bristol Borough, for instance, in 2006, and they paved about 82% of their roads in one summer. And they took out, I want to say it was a 15-year bond at the time. And that was about 15 years ago. So they're paid off now, and the roads still look pretty good. We were nervous about doing it all at once. Would they then all fall apart at once? But the Public Works did a nice job of keeping up with the crack sealing each year to preserve that road surface so water didn't get into the joints that open up and the cracks that occur. So that has held up well. So that can be done, and you can use your annual liquid fuels funding to pay for those debt services. I don't know if that would be the right move. We just don't know because we didn't analyze this. I don't know. Back then, the interest rates were very low compared to today's market.
I Googled it, and it's about between 2 and 3%, 2.66. That's not unreasonable.
Correct.
So is the council, I'm going to just do an informal question, not a vote. Is council want them to look into doing all the roads, or do we just want to stick to this 10-road schedule?
I'd love
We can
to see
think
a
about it.
report.
I mean, this isn't like, oh, tonight and that's the end
Right.
of it.
I'd love to see a report that shows, like, so we have a comparison. It's kind of hard to say, oh, yeah, keep with this plan without knowing what the other alternatives could be. And I'm glad that you mentioned what Bristol did and how long it took, because that was going to be one of my questions about how long should a road, what's the shelf life of a road, right? So,
A lot of factors.
yeah, I get there's a lot of factors, but like but it helps to know that they did their roads and for 15 years later now, we're looking at something where, hey, as long as you keep up with the maintenance, it's not a bad way to go. So given that, I would like to see at least something that comparatively we can say, here's an informed decision.
Okay, Catherine?
I have a question.
Oh, Catherine.
Excuse me.
Can Catherine go first?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Then you can go next.
Well, I like the first plan because it's First Ward.
Well, we would keep this schedule.
Yeah. Do you hear that? But I agree. We need a schedule for our town and what we can do and budget. And because it's not just a few roads and streets in First Ward that I've gone through.
Exactly.
And if we could just make the trash perfect and our roads great, everybody would be happy. Isn't that about true?
Not a lie. Go ahead, Marie.
So my question is to you. When you talk about you're going to redo the roads, are you just patching what's bad, or are we talking everybody parks in their driveway and you're doing the complete street?
Yes, yeah, I mean, it would be the half of the streets that Pico already paved, so we would just be milling and overlaying the other half that wasn't done. But yeah, we would have the contractor, and we'll work with the police department because there's quite a bit of logistics. We post the roads with signs that say the contractor will start this road this date. Don't park cars on it between this date and this date.
Okay.
Things always happen, but we do the best we can. They show up in the morning, there's still a car there. You knock on doors, you try to wake people up. Sometimes you're calling a tow company and the cars are getting pulled and you send the bill to the owner.
Okay.
But we do try to do the best we can to minimize the impact. We also put into the contract that we want from the time they mill the road to the time when they pave the road. We try to limit that time to about a week. But it's definitely an inconvenience to the neighbors,
sure.
Especially in boroughs. There are difficult settings to do this in. Narrow streets, on-street parking, things like that. But we have a pretty good system down. We're also, even if we just did this one set of roads this year, we always send out notices to all the utility users, the MMA, Pico, Verizon, anybody that has utilities in a road. And we ask them to tell us if they're planning any work, because the other thing that happens more than you'd like is you pave a road and then a year later they say, hey, our gas laterals are all falling apart. We have to come in and redo the road. Then everybody thinks it was poor planning that led to that. Sometimes even the best of planning, things like that can still happen. But we do send out notices, and we'll try to coordinate with the utility companies to, or they'll come in and say, hey, we weren't going to do it, but since you're paving, we'll come in next year and knock that road out before you pave it, so.
Okay, thank you.
That changes their schedule to move quicker.
Nobody else?
May I ask another question? When we do get that information from you, it would be really nice if the size of the roads in this one, where we can actually see the colors, this could match that.
Yeah, well, we, Jake and I were at a conference this week, and we were trying to arrange for this to get done. It was all we were just talking about this end of last week to even come to tonight. So this was sort of done quickly to at least get some information in front of you this evening.
Do you have this as an email? Can you send it to everyone? So on the screen, you could probably see it, right?
It does look better on the
Okay.
screen, but we can also change the line type so it pops in. We can also have full-size maps we could bring in here if you want to,
Okay.
if and when the decision's made, if you want to highlight that and put some information on the board so people can review it.
So council is okay if I direct the engineer to go ahead and put a plan together for all roads? Or estimate, and don't put like a lot of work, but something that the council can look at to see if that's a feasible idea?
Yeah, we can work with Judith to crunch numbers. We'd have to look at what the costs are, for the bond, look at what the annual revenues that come in, with liquid fuels. I don't know how the borough handles liquid fuels, how much money's available, because you can use it for other things besides paying for roads. But we could look into that and see if that's a good option. Because the other thing that was on this one we did in 2018 was, I'm guessing the cost per year, like in 2018, it was $136,000. You see this long list here. I'm guessing that was about what liquid fuels was coming in annually. And if we only paved 3 roads a year within that budget amount, it would take until 2056, starting in 2018, to do all of the roads. And with so many roads needing to be paved now, the other option of waiting is not feasible.
Okay.
So it would take that long and double the price, it looks like, just about.
Yeah.
The attorney.
I was saying you're being very modest. You didn't talk about your amazing success in Bristol Township paving like almost 200 miles of roads that hadn't been repaved since Bill Levitt put the blacktop down 60, 70 years ago.
Yeah, they've too had to really put out. They were doing $6 million, $8 million a year, and they paved 75% of their roads.
It used to be in Bristol that if you drove through Falls Township or Tullytown, you knew when you hit Bristol Township when the car started going like this. Then you knew you were in Bristol Township. Today, you can't tell when you're in Bristol Township. Their roads are at least as good, if not better, than their neighbors around them. And with the long-term bonds at very low interest, this isn't like borrowing money to pay for groceries. This is long-term borrowing for major capital improvements, and I think it would do the town great if you could do that.
And the other thing that I failed to mention is you do get some economy of scale by doing a lot of roads. Contractors who come in and spend 8 weeks on a job, their unit prices are usually more favorable than the 2 or 3 week mobilization, demobilization. When they're out there and they're just, assembly lining down through town, usually you see a pretty favorable.
Okay. Well, I think you have the go ahead to do that from council.
So spend the next month looking at.
Month. 2 weeks.
Okay. To report back.
I'm kidding.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Kurt, I'd like to ask you, you had provided us with the 2024 road program information, providing us with $909,817.70 cost just to do what's on this sheet. Would it be advantageous if we were able to at least get that started this year and then go for the bond and then do another review, because you already know that these roads need to be done, and then go for the bond for everything else at a later date, or, not at a later date, but knowing that?
Well, I think if we did all the roads, then we would get the better rates, because this way you would bring the equipment and then they would leave again. This way, if they had a section, right? I'm assuming they're doing it by section, not by.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because I'm asking Kurt if it would be advantageous to at least begin this page, because we wouldn't be putting any money into looking into a plan. We would already know that this is what we would like to do. We would send out notices to the utilities and so forth, and we could at least get something going. And then once we have that going, go for the bigger plan. Would there be any advantages to doing that?
I think that the disadvantage is the economy of scale cost. To have these roads with the rest of the roads, you'll probably see a better overall price. You know, to just do these roads now, it's a pretty healthy, like 900,000 is a pretty decent size paving project, so you will get good competitive pricing on a job like that. It's sort of like, you know, we could really crunch some numbers and try to see what makes the most sense, but right now we just don't have that answer because we didn't study it.
You can bring it. You can bring it to us next month. That's fine. But I think we need to see that. My road that I live on, it's not bad, but it hasn't been paved since the early 70s, late 60s. So,
yeah, and some roads fall apart in 15 years. Some roads haven't been paved in 50 years, and they hold up pretty well. So,
and I had a conversation with PennDOT. I think they're going to do Pennsylvania Avenue all the way from Tyburn Road all the way up through Yardley in 2026. Okay. So if you want to keep that in mind.
Yeah, the one thing too I wanted to mention is when you resurface roads across pedestrian crosswalks, you're obligated to upgrade the curb ramps on either side. And you've probably seen these everywhere you drive now. I mean, all the Wendy's and the Bank of Americas, everybody's upgrading ADA. Generally, it's a liability reason for them to do that, trips and falls, things like that. But because the cost of these curb ramps, and it used to be you just do 4 diagonal curb ramps, so 4 per intersection. Now it's 8, 2 on each corner with the direction of travel. And the criteria is pretty stringent. You know, we're out there with 2-foot digital light levels. You know, it's got to be under 2% in all directions, things like that. So you can almost double a road program with the cost of doing curb ramps. In an ideal scenario, you do the curb ramps maybe first, and then you would pave the road after. We found that municipalities aren't really in good position to do that because of how expensive curb ramps are. But we would say that if you were to even do this road program, or if we did all the roads, we would want you to adopt a policy every year to install at least a handful of curb ramps. A lot of municipalities are using CDBG money. That's a good use of the county's CDBG money to pay for curb ramps. There's no match with CDBG. It covers all of construction. The match is you have to pay for the engineering. But we would absolutely recommend adopting an annual curb ramp program, and at least doing a handful of them. And if people reach out and say, hey, can you put a curb ramp in over here, that's usually where we prioritize doing those ramps.
So if your cost is $5 million for the roads, what will we be looking at for the curb ramps?
Double it, another 5.
Double that. Sure.
So if you can get like a couple $100,000 through CDBG, or we're always trying to find grant funds where you can apply for curb ramps, but.
And that was my goal of asking if there would be an advantage to take this list and do that and apply for a CDBG grant for the curb ramps and being able to accomplish something in that nature. Because you and I had actually talked about this prior.
Yeah.
We had talked about this some time ago. And so that's why I was wondering if that would be advantageous to take it on that merit, knowing that we also have to get information out to to PICO, to all the different entities that service the roadways, and then, of course, the curb ramp program that we would need to put into place. So that's why I was, again, wondering if it would be advantageous to take portions and work in that manner.
Yeah, I mean, for the 900,000, we could do an estimate of how many ramps. But like I said, it's usually about another 900. Even like the county CDBG, we're lucky if we can get around 300,000 annually from that program. So you can just see how, even if we did try to do curb ramps next year, we wouldn't be able to keep up with the needs for the paving. So that's why we do an inverse where we put the ramps in after we pave.
After we pave. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any other lists of any kind of CBGB grants that would benefit the borough?
We do have, we've been maintaining a grant table. I'm sure Jacob probably can pull it up, but there's always grants. 2 or 3 times a year, there's pools of grants that come out. Right now, there's Greenway Trails and Recreation Program with DCD. There's a WRPP grant that's out. They both close end of May. And then there's other grants that come out. When does CDBG usually? So it's open pretty much now for CDBG. It's closed now. But they would reopen for applications at the beginning of next year. So, we've had good success with grants. A lot of municipalities take full advantage of going after grants.
You want to send us a list maybe, and then I'll distribute it to all the council, and if there's something we're interested in, we'll.
Yeah, we still, I guess we had the Williamson Park planning grant was one that was out there. There's a couple traffic signal ones.
And that's what I was going to ask you, if you could touch upon the traffic signal ones. Those were, there were 2 grants, I believe, that we were going to give back because we didn't have any match funds. That was last year. And I've been trying to resurrect and keep those grants, hoping that we could find some match money for that. So I was going to discuss that with council and find out if that's something that they wanted to move forward on. So we actually have 2 grants out there. I'm not sure if they're going to take them back or not. If we can resurrect them, how much will we need at this point? And I think because the engineering was done a long time, I'm not sure how long ago.
For the signals?
Yes.
I don't think we did the engineering.
We didn't do any design.
Oh, you didn't?
For them. We just got the grant.
So
2 grants in 2020. We got one for 277,000, and then in 2021 we got a second. Was like they added on to it another 150, but 68,000 was needed out of the borough's pocket to pay for the match.
The match.
The total project. It was a total project cost at that time in 2019. We put that together for $446,000 for that signal for just pedestrian upgrades to that traffic signal at Pennsylvania Avenue.
Do you think the cost would be the same or be a big increase or not?
I wouldn't think it's much of an increase. That's.
So if we could resurrect these grants, would council be interested in putting the match towards that?
Yeah, I would.
If everybody's saying yes, I didn't hear everybody.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, I agree.
You saw I have an email trying to do that.
Yeah.
So.
And one of the things that is a good strategy, every year, take as many shots as you can at every grant you can go after. Sometimes you get lucky and you can match a grant against another grant to get your out-of-pocket costs covered. It's always easier when you have local dollars you can contribute either for the engineering or for the match. Sometimes it's 15% you got to match. Sometimes it's 30%. Sometimes it's 50-50.
Well, you have Pennsylvania Avenue and Trenton Avenue. How about Bridge Street? That's a problem light.
I don't know if
I don't think we've. Yeah, we haven't gone for anything for that one yet.
And the unfortunate thing is a lot of municipalities had been capitalizing on, like Green Light Go was one of the grant programs that almost every municipality.
Or the Arley, I think that's what we have.
Yeah.
So if we needed $68,000, what would the engineering cost be for both of them then?
I think that was included in that 446 because the grant would cover up to 10%, and so you'd have 20%, I guess, from both of the 2 grants together. But 10% of 150 is 10% of the 277,000.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's for engineering, 10% they allow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kurt. Going to get a lot of info from you in the next couple months.
Sounds good.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, never hesitate to reach reach out. But yeah, we'll work on, we'll get together with Judith over the next week or so and come up with different scenarios for the roads and
Okay.
make sense.
All right. And one last thing, real quick, you don't have to answer me now, but I had been looking at some past emails from Ted Parker, and there was $500,000 in grant money for Patriots Park. And then, of course, sadly, Borough Manager Mitchell passed away. Do we know where that is? Is it dead? Can we resurrect it?
Patriots Park was definitely one that we were pushing real hard. We were getting grants. We did the perimeter sidewalk already. We have, I would say, almost a 90% design. We'd have to go in for NPDS permits, which is a little bit of a bear, but we're like 90% there with the design. And we did get that $500,000 with the RACP.
So that's still viable. Okay.
It.
Yeah, it's still there, but that's a one-to-one match, so 500,000.
Oh.
Put up 500,000.
Okay. Can you just put a list like that together for council?
We can. The problem with Patriots Park was, I want to say it was like a $3.5 million construction estimate for the whole thing. Wow. So when Scott got that money, he asked us if we could come up with $1 million phase one, because that's how much 500 plus the match would be. And it's really hard to, a lot of the money you don't see on these jobs. It's all the underground stormwater management, the piping, the conduits, the electric lines, things like that. So we've been just stalled because we haven't been trying to go find other match monies to try to. And yeah, that RACP program, that comes out every year. You can get on a list, and sometimes, let's see, what was it, 1.7 million Bristol just got for that was through the federal.
Yeah.
But RACP is a state program. That you can usually get 7 figures or more.
Okay.
And you can stack RACPs.
Yeah, you have to put on the list the year before, and then I think after they add it to the list, then you can start requesting the money to be funded.
Okay.
And you know the deal. Get on the phone with the elected officials and say, hey, we're ready to get this done. And
Is council listening to that? Get on the phone.
they come through. They really do. We have awesome local representation here at the state level. And these guys, you make their day when you tell them you got a viable project and you're ready to hit the ground running. They love bringing money home for that.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kurt.
All right. You're welcome.
Okay, Borough Manager report.
Good evening, everyone. As again, we've been talking about this for some time, we finally are going to have the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Bridge Street project. The date is April 24th at 3 p.m. We're working towards parking over at the fireworks company, and we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony at 3 p.m. The Secretary of DCNR will be present, and hoping that as many of council persons can attend, the mayor and so forth. You're all invited. Please come out and celebrate. It's a wonderful celebration for finally having this project come to fruition. We're happy to say that. The next item is the CDBG grant that we had a lot of help from Gilmore, Jacob and Kurt, thank you. We believe that we may have $300,000 towards this project. What has to take place is the Bucks County Commissioners at this point have to do their final vote, and hopefully as soon as we find out, we'll be moving forward with some new items at Manor Park, taking down the old equipment and putting some new stuff up. So you'll hear more about that in the future. We're working on handicap parking ordinance. Attorney Holbert had provided the ordinance to Mike Italia, myself, and I sent it to Chief Simpson. So we're all working together to do a review. We're hoping to have that on the May agenda for advertisement, to approve advertisement. We're also working on a draft noise and disorderly premises ordinance. We received that from Attorney Holbert. Chief Simpson and Mike Italia also have that for review. We're hoping to have that on the May agenda for a motion to advertise as well. We've also created a workspace for the borough tax collector on the very first floor because we did have some residents complain regarding having to come up here on the second level of Borough Hall. So for the convenience, we now have the tax collector collecting on the first floor level. And for everyone, just so everyone's aware, she's here on Friday afternoons. I also secured a donation, we talked about this last month just shortly, for $80,000 for an outfitted Chevy Tahoe for the police, the Borough Police Truck Enforcement. It would be a fully outfitted Chevy Tahoe, so the police department could also utilize it for not only truck enforcement, but policing. So that vehicle was ordered, and we're happy to announce that we'll have a donation for that. Also collaborating with Council President Helen regarding waste management for a donation for scale replacement for the police truck traffic enforcement. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Solicitor report. Do you need an intro or you can take it?
I'm
Okay.
good. I'm feeling good. Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone. There were some questions about whether we could have a cigarette or a liquor tax. When I was on council in New Hope, we had all those bars. We wanted to charge 10 cents a drink like they do in Philly and whatever. Philadelphia is a city of the first class. They have powers that were given to them by the state legislature that we can't even dream of. And they use those powers because they have tremendous needs and not enough income. So they tax everything under the sun. We don't have that ability. That's one of the people have asked me, well, we should have a cigarette tax or we should have a liquor tax. I'm not against it, but we don't have, no township, borough has that power. In fact, even Pittsburgh doesn't have a lot of that power. Philadelphia has that power. And the only way to change that is to get your state legislature to change the law, which I was told after I made contacts with the various state representatives that we have, that there was very little chance that that could ever get passed because there were so many other priorities, really things that needed to be done that have never been done, that to get this done, but that is not to stop each and every one of you from contacting anyone you wish who represent us to express your opinion. But that's the answer to that question. And that's my report for tonight. Thank you.
So I know it's a slim chance, but there's always a chance.
If the legislature passes it and the governor signs it, you'll have that power. Until that time, we do not.
And there's nothing else we could do. There's no other way around it. We have so many cigarette shops in town.
Yes, I support your efforts, but we don't have in the words of
I hear you. I
of Scotty,
understand you.
we don't have the power, Captain. We don't have the power to do that, although we should have it.
Okay. So I hope that answers everybody's questions out there about cigarette taxes. All right. Thank you, Randy. Police Chief report. Chief Simpson. Okay, fantastic. Nice job with all the officers. Your speech was nice as well. Consent agenda. So the consent agenda is a grouping of like items that really shouldn't cause any angst amongst the council people and could be approved as a group or a body of items. So in looking at the all the agenda items, does anybody on council want anything pulled out? Is there anything anybody has any issues with and would like to vote separately? No? Okay. So the consent agenda, we're going to approve the minutes from the 3/19 council meeting. We're going to approve the bill list from 3/1 to 3/31/24 in the amount of $442,697.41. We're going to approve the closure of Bridge Street per special event permit for approximately 5 to 15 minutes for ribbon cutting ceremony on 4/24 at 3 p.m. pending PennDOT approval. Approval of the Police Directive 308 Bucks County Co-Responder Program. Approval of single audit with Barbican, Thornton and Company for the Bridge Street project in the amount of $5,000 due to the federal grant funding requirements. Approval of the request of Police Officer Gary Sampano, former employee of Morrisville Borough Police Department, to retain his bulletproof vest, which expires in 11 months, February of 2025. This item is owned by the borough and is personally fit item, which has little to no value for our use. Call for a motion to approve the revised civil service rules. Can I have Catherine make a motion?
I so move that these discussed items be voted on.
Okay, and Marie, would you second that motion?
Second.
Okay, any discussion amongst council? Okay, so I have a couple of questions. Is that normal to give away the bulletproof vest?
The fact of the matter is, Officer Sampano asked before he resigned that he use this vest and issued to him as part of the employment. These are personally fitted items. It's going to expire. They have a 5-year expiration date. I know in my former experience, it was not unusual for us to just let it go. It would be reissued vests that should be fitted. So I don't know how to answer whether it's normal or not, but I don't think it's abnormal.
Okay. All right. And so if the vests are expiring on February 2025, that's like 9 months from now. Does that mean all the officers' vests are expiring and we need to look into that?
Well, I would tell you that they probably expire at different times because they get hired at different times. They don't normally get purchased all at one singular time. I do know that there's going to be grant pipeline again in the spring as an annual grant for the Department of Justice. I would take EJA. But yeah, that's something that's available annually. So we probably received funds for that. That's issued to him. Government. So
okay. Yeah, that's fine. And I just wanted to know that not the co-responder, the directive, did our attorney look at it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. That's all my questions. Any comments from the public? Nancy Sherlock? I'm just asking, does anybody have any questions on this agenda item?
You can hear me? I'm sorry. I just wanted to know what the changes were for the civil service. What changes were made? Not everybody can attend those meetings. To approve the revised civil service rules.
There's a couple of rule changes.
Thank you.
There were just a couple rule changes. It had to do with background checks. Do you want to read them off, Randy, or?
In a nutshell, what we did is before the rules stated that the background checks had to be completed before we could make an offer of employment, where now it'll be a conditional offer of employment pending the background check, because it was slowing us down hiring people.
That's essentially it.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment on these items?
Kathy Pianzita, Hillcrest Avenue. Do have a question really on the revised civil service rules. In light of hiring 3 people, was that a correction to do it, or they were hired, and when does these rules go into effect?
They'll go into effect tonight if we vote on it, and if we vote it down, then they won't. Voting on it tonight, so obviously they would go into effect tonight.
I don't think there was any error done in hiring the officers. I think it was just a matter of, they were new civil service rules last fall, and and when they were hiring the officers, they found ways of streamlining the process. So they were just making adjustments to streamline.
And if we're going to do, we offer, we hire someone, let's say we have 10 candidates. The way the system was before, we'd have to do 10 background checks. Okay, even if we're only hiring 3 officers or 2 officers off the list, we would be doing 10 background checks before we hired them, which is a waste of time and a waste of money. Where now, we have 10 people on a list, we hire 2, we're doing 2 background checks. And if one of those background checks comes back bad, then that person's gone.
I did ask civil service, and she said, don't discuss it until you guys discuss it. So that was my reason. Okay.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 8-0. Okay, call for a motion to approve Borough co-sponsoring the Jazz Fest on Sunday, August 18th, 2024 in Williamson Park. Co-sponsorship request includes use of stage, a portable toilet, and insurance for the event. Can you make the motion, Melissa?
So moved.
John, would you second it? Any discussion?
Madam President, I do have a question. I did see, or maybe I missed it, but was there a budget for this? Was this the thing that came up last month about?
No, I have the budget for the other items.
For the other, is there?
This is a private one. This has nothing to do with the Parks and Rec. This is the Michael Sherlock Jazz Fest that happens every year. So they're asking for the use of the stage. I'm assuming for gratis, the access to a portable toilet and waiver of or the borough insurance for the event.
I apologize. This is my first year up here. What is the cost of that to the borough?
It's a fundraiser.
You're not yet. This is council speaking.
She pays.
You can speak after council finishes discussion.
Hold on. I didn't hear what Nancy said.
Go ahead.
Is there a budget? And or do we know what the cost is?
Normally, the stage cost, I believe, would be around $300. The portable toilet it could be anywhere from $170 to $200 and some dollars. And the insurance is something that we already carry.
So there's no additional cost for it. It's just like a certificate of insurance.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Madam President, can I speak?
Oh, go ahead.
Just like when we co-sponsored the Rotary egg hunt, we didn't charge them for the use of the, or did we? I don't think we did for the stage. We didn't, so that's kind of common.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, any public comment on this?
Okay, come on, Kat.
It's like, welcome to the Jack in the Box. When you look at this, if any organization is going to use your park, they're going to pay for the entertainment at their cost and actually have an event that people might want to come to your town. How could you possibly say no? If you look at the insurance, and I don't care, maybe we're going to talk about a porta potty. Didn't you have porta potties in your stage, behind the stage, for other events you did last year? Don't they have any other ones?
Kathy, I don't think anybody said they're against this.
It's why didn't you put it as a consent item?
Because
What makes it the difference that this has to come down here versus a consent?
Okay.
anyone, Nancy?
I'm learning. I have no idea.
I would just I'm here this evening to ask that I encourage council to support this particular event. And as Helen said, it would be gratis for the stage and the porta potty, which is one of my questions for later, but maybe that could be answered now. Will there be one down there this summer as there was last year, given that we have a number of events happening? And this event brings people not just from Morrisville, but from surrounding towns. And just to give you a quick lineup of who's going to be there, we have the student band. It's a student band. It's Newtown School Jazz Band. Fascinating Rhythm is the big band. Jill Salkin Trio, she's a vocalist. And we also have, who else do we have? We have Suzette Ortez and the Riverside Quartet. So it's a full day from 1 to 8 p.m. So any assistance would be much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, Nancy.
Yes.
You mentioned a vocalist, and between the vocalist and the quartet, was the other person a vocalist also?
No, she's the only vocalist. Although I didn't give it in order of their appearance. I'm sorry.
No, I was just curious. Like you were given it, I didn't know that name, and I was just curious. So
Yeah, Jill Salkin and her trio.
Trio.
She's the only vocalist. The others are all just instrumental.
Thank you.
Okay.
And to
there
answer
will
your
be
question,
some-
Nancy, regarding the porta potty, if we have a lot of functions, we will normally put one there like we did last year.
Well, I'm hoping that, well, that would be a different subject. I'll have to wait for that, about the September event. And there'll be some food trucks and a couple vendors. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds nice. Okay, no other questions, no other public comment?
I forgot to mention, this is free of charge. So the public does not pay to attend.
Okay.
And as far as cost of putting on the event, it's about $4,000 to $5,000. That comes out of the foundation's money.
Peggy, you have public comment?
I'm just very confused about this procedure because the way it's written, it sounds like you're supposed to comment as items come up. Or can you comment on the...
These are agenda items, so if you have a comment on the Jazz Fest, then you would comment now.
So you make your comment as an item on the agenda comes up, so you keep getting up and down to make comments on the different, is that how this works? I'm very confused because I wanted to make a comment about the consent agenda, the approval of the bill for March, and my question was, I see an awful lot of...
I know, but I asked for public comment then.
I'm signed up. Today you're telling me I can't comment?
No, I'm not saying, I'm trying to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to explain how this works. So when the consent agenda is called, then you would comment. The reason we changed this is because once the council has discussions, then I would like to hear if the public has anything to add for what the council is saying.
Okay, so we keep getting up and down. So I just have to know to do that because I signed in and then you never called for these comments. So, okay, so here's my comment on the consent agenda, item B, the approval of the bill for March. I see a lot of legal bills on there, but I don't know what they're for. And then I see on the website that you hired the Aspirant Consulting Group, I'm assuming to look for the new police chief. And I'm wondering if that will be on one of the monthly bills, if that is one of these bills. I would like to know if we're going to be able to find out how much money that consulting fee is costing.
I can answer that. Aspirant is not on that list of bills. It will be on the next list of bills, and it's not included in legal. So it will be specifically for Aspirant.
And it will be listed by name.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
That's what I
welcome.
wanted to know.
You're
And I
welcome.
just want to put in a plug for not only a Jazz Fest, but for other things in the park. I'm hoping you'll vote to approve it, and also to not quibble over money for a stage or public toilets, which, most boroughs do. It's one of the few events in our borough that draws a good crowd from across the area with vendors. It's good publicity for our little town, and I hope you'll support many events like this in the park because it's really, really good for us. The Irish Festival was wonderful last year, had a fabulous turnout. We also had a food truck festival. So you do have money budgeted for events in the park. So I hope when people who have the good of the community at heart come up and want to do something in the park to make our park used, that you won't quibble with them over the toilet and the stage. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. We're not going to have the next motion for the engineer to review the borough list of roads and put out a bid because we already spoke to him and he has a second assignment. So that one will be stricken off of the agenda. Now we have public comment on any non-agenda items. So this is not anything that has been listed on the agenda. This is any kind of comment that you have outside of the agenda items. Holly Harmon. Oh, go ahead, Peggy Walsh.
I just want to express my disappointment with the way I was treated at the last meeting. The president started gaveling me down well before 3 minutes. I always prepare and time my remarks. Not only did you time me wrong, but your gaveling was ludicrous because there was nobody else commenting but me. Apparently, Andrew Lubin, through the paper I gave everybody itemizing our legal fees for the firing of the police chief over the counter of the dais on the floor. I'm hoping that that was just a mistake, Andrew. This is very disappointing on a personal level since you're my council person and I'm your constituent and I work very hard to get you elected. And I'd just like to point out that that's really inappropriate behavior. Mr. Robinson, your innuendo that the former police chief falsified our crime statistics was totally unprofessional and really could lead to more wasted money fighting a defamation lawsuit. And I'm hoping that you will soon be presenting a plan for Williamson Park. The community met in August, came up with things that we preferred, and we haven't heard anything about it, just like we haven't heard anything about Patriots Park, but hopefully that money that is sitting waiting will start to get used. I'd also like to know if you've put money back into the children's budget library program, because on the budget it looks to me as if there's $2,000 in there, but it looks as if it's been a donation, not money from the borough. But I certainly could be wrong because I am not an expert in reading budgets, but it's really hard to read. So have you put money back in the budget for the library, for the children's program?
Do you want to answer or not? You don't have to.
Yes, the $2,000 that's in the budget is budgetary money from the borough.
Okay, that's not just a donation that they got.
The donations, we don't put the donations in there. And I believe so far we're up to $3,000 of donations on top of the $2,000. Okay. So no, the monies were put into the budget.
All right, good.
So it was funded.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Holly Harmon.
Holly Harmon, Plaza Boulevard. Piggybacking off of what was just previously discussed about the legal fees, I did do a right to know to find out how Ms. Walsh potentially obtained this information, and no right to knows were filed by her in the last year, so I'm curious as to find out how that financial information was conveyed to her. Thank you.
Anybody on council? No? No. Thank you, Ms. Harmon. I certainly don't know if there was no right to knows for the legal bills? No. Okay. All right, Debbie Colgan.
Good evening. I'm very disappointed that the first display of changes with this newly formed council is one that makes it more difficult for the public to speak to you, as we've seen tonight. By splitting public comment into separate comment periods, you make it more burdensome for the residents to tell you about the issues that concern us. By making people sit through a meeting, not knowing when they might be able to comment, you demonstrate a lack of consideration for those that you serve. You're telling us, sit down, shut up, and wait, and hopefully you'll go away. It may be inconvenient for you to sit through our announcements, our areas of concerns, and even our pointed gripes, but that is part of what you signed up for. Listening to public comment at the beginning may inform you when you do vote on your business items. It can impact what follows. Public comment is a good opportunity for everyone to hear our neighbors' concerns and announcements. Burying them within the meeting makes it less likely for those to be truly heard. While the split is legal, it is a known tactic for squashing public input. It smacks of contempt of the public. It was apparent at the last meeting when the only public commenter was gavelled down too early as she was finishing her last sentences, and a council member tossed her document on the floor as trash. I understand the need to move things along, but that was not the case here. Please have some decency and discretion. It's mid-April, and we still don't see any committees formed. The public is unable to determine if an advertised item is actually going to happen. Sometimes they're canceled after the meeting date. But sometimes they do happen, so who knows? Committee meetings are an important mechanism to get real work done, and it's your time to talk with the public, not at us. It is the opportunity to tap into the many creative and energetic resources of our community. Instead, we are seeing committees ignored or hobbled. It's been, as mentioned, 8 months since the Parks and Recreation's committee's public listening session as part of a $50,000 master plan for Williamson Park. Where are those results? We missed the biggest budget season, grant season, particularly 2 no-match and one no-match and 1 low-match trail grants. This is where your committees can keep things moving along, just like the Planning Commission that works on through drafts of a comprehensive plan. Without effective committees and true public participation, just a few people decide what's best for us. Community-driven plans are sidelined and disastrous ideas are hatched up on the side. And we've been there and we don't want to go back. Thank you.
Thank you again. I have more questions now than when I walked in the door, but I won't have time to ask them all. But there are a couple questions that actually the public would like to know. One is, do we have a date for the NNO, and will it be August 4th, I think? So I'm just going to do bullet point questions. Will there be an audit regarding the ARPA money? When will the borough be doing any of the improvements or suggestions that the public had discussed? Actually, that's a replica of what the other 2 women just said. Just for history purposes, there was an Arts and Events Committee was established in 2007 to address all activity in the park, to address cultural events, and this was done by resolution. And it has been followed for the most part for all these years. The only change right now is that there's no more park ranger, but the rest is actually very, we could follow it to a T. Regarding the format for the agenda meetings, change can sometimes be good, and I can agree with change when it's necessary, but not just for change. The president's format right now, which includes choosing who makes the first and second, is really the work of a monocrat. Shame on council members who choose to let someone else speak for them. Going back to roads, there's approximately 68 roads in Morrisville, so 40 is scored. The consent agenda, usually that's always after the body has already talked about all these issues, usually at an agenda meeting, and then once it's been discussed as a group, then it would be brought up and you would almost automatically think it wouldn't be a problem. And can you confirm that if you have an agenda meeting, the consent, if you pull one out or somebody doesn't like that, so then you just vote on the other 7? Say it was 8. I'm just wondering how that works. Or if you don't like number 8, is your vote considered no for everything? That's a question. Is there a police search committee? I was wondering, and who's sitting on that? And then, and where are we with alcohol in the park? I know that it's passed, but I know that there was some tweaking to do with the procedures, and I wanted to know what's happening with that, because we do have some events this summer that we could possibly have alcohol in the park. And at the last meeting, there was a statement made regarding the former chief's reports. And if this is true, the accusation that these were not correct, then take it immediately to the DA. Do not sit here and or make statements that maybe not be true. And I want to know if they were right or wrong. There was a tree planting this Saturday, and back to the RCAP grant. That also provides for some in-kind. So just so you know, the RCAP for Patriots Park. And maybe we'll find out what's going to happen there someday. Thank you.
Nancy, I have one question. When you were referencing the making the motions, calling the person's name out, how did you describe that?
The fact that the council president asks people to do the first and second, I called it that's the work of a monocrat.
How many times did you hear Virginia ask who made the motion tonight?
0. Why isn't Virginia up here?
Say again?
Why isn't Virginia up here?
I've had that question. I've asked that question before too.
Yes.
Nancy, we were up here together for 4 years and she wasn't up here. So, I mean, we could have asked that 2 years ago. We didn't ask it.
That's 6 years old.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not here to argue with you.
I'm not arguing, but if
the president can ask for the first and the second, and then when it's said, the president can say, we have a first by Catherine, a second by, I mean, if that's the reason behind it, I think that's, I
there's a lot of other municipalities that do it that way.
Okay, well, that's okay. That's the prerogative of this body.
Okay, let me just say, legally, there's nothing wrong with someone asking, would you like to make that motion? They do it in Bristol Township, they do it. And as far as this made up problem with public comment, in Bristol Township, for example, a township of 58,000 people, a township of the first class, they can announce, they have public comment on every item, and at the end, you can discuss any other item you want. Okay, so this is actually more democratic. What the president is saying is, on each and every item that we discuss, you can discuss it. How does that is as opposed to, you might not remember what you want to say or whatever, this way as each item is discussed. And as to the consent agenda, I don't know what rule you're talking about. There's no such rule that had to be discussed ahead of time. Consent items are items that are of not controversial, like approving paying the police and your bills, approving your minutes and what have you. If the council person objects to it, it's taken out and the other items are voted on, and then that item is voted on separately. I don't know how that's a perfectly democratic and wonderful system. There's nothing wrong with it. It's in complete, I'm not done. It's in complete compliance with the Sunshine Law, the public meeting laws, the open meeting laws, etc. So if the council president or the council chooses to do it that way, it's a lot easier for council, frankly, to have public comment in the very beginning, and then you don't say another word the rest of the time. This is a lot more democratic, I think, but you can go back to the other way. It's really council's choice. Either way is permissible under the open meetings law. That's the point here.
And just for the public's knowledge, everyone on council was asked prior to the changes, and no one had any issues with it. Kathy, I think you were the last person for public comment.
I will be quick. I wish we could have spoke a little bit earlier, even before your presentations. I felt like I had a trip down memory lane because I actually remember sitting in that seat. And when we had to hire police officers, and I went and I said, I want a female cop. So I remember that day with Erica McIntyre. So I wish her well. I'm glad that she's leaving us safely. And I pray for safety for our entire police staff. I know it's a hard job between what a council person's position should be. You have a priority to your employees. You have a priority to your taxpayers. You have a priority to integrity, and you always have a priority to truth. And if you always tell the truth, you never have to worry about anything because you'd be willing to stand behind it. I only wanted to clear up two things. Yes, this agenda thing was a little bit concerning because I noticed the words that were said when they voted at your previous meeting last month were not the words that were read. So I said, okay, what exactly did they vote on? There was some changes in your words versus what's laying on this table and what I read. That's all I know. You're right. I'm not going to get up here and speak about civil service rules. I didn't read them. I'm not going to make myself look like an idiot. But then anybody, not one of you up there, and including the gentleman on the telephone, is any more important or should have any more or less information than anybody else. Just because you have a title, president, vice president, I don't care what you call yourselves, you all get the same information. It is concerning when I look at notices that some people on council's email address has changed. There's a 2. That is a huge red flag to me. Well, why did this person's email for me to send it to change? So there's a lot of things that people ask. They're afraid. They're afraid they're going to be retaliated. Well, if anybody knows in this town, I'm not afraid of saying what I ever said. I stand behind every single word I said, and guess what? I'm the first one to say, yeah, I could make mistakes. We live and learn each day. That was the view that you came into an agenda meeting. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. Remember, you are not the only borough people that went to Borough Training 101, that little class you go to when you first become a borough council person. I never attended it when I was on council, but it seems it's something that happens. But I really wonder if that day when y'all went, was it said, if you want to shut up your public, you do things by consent items? Maybe that was it. And remember, we all don't live in a little circle of only borough people. People had the idea that people couldn't talk. I came up and I asked about ARPA funds. I asked for a balance, but now you will get a right to know for every single fund on every single records. 2 ways to play the game. One buries people in work, and one just answers a question.
Thank you. Do you want me to say that? All right, council discussion items. So the mayor and I were talking one day about things that go on in town. We were talking about the T-Mobile grant. We were talking about other events that we might do. And so we started talking about creating a committee that would be made up of residents that would help with these kinds of events. Not necessarily just events, it could be anything. So everyone on council received a copy. We don't have to vote on anything today, but just for the public, there's background information on it. So the purpose of this committee is a permanent committee of the Borough Council. The purpose is to establish a and this name was also taken from another town that had this exact same committee. So if council doesn't like it, we could definitely change it. To establish a celebration advisory committee, CAC, by the Borough of Morrisville Council that will function to help facilitate the creation of new events and activities as may be sanctioned by the governing body and the CAC to increase community spirit and cohesiveness of our community. So there's a lot of steps here. This committee would be responsible for raising funds for any event that they do have. They would be responsible for keeping a budget. They would be responsible for coming to council and telling them what they are doing. There's a long list, and it could be made available to the public. Correct, Judith? It could sit at the desk? Okay, so anybody on council want to discuss this? Is this something we want to look into and create, or is this something that we just let it go?
Madam or Council President Helen?
Sure.
Can I ask, is this an advisory committee or advisory council?
Advisory committee. It is headed by a resident. There's a chairperson. There's a vice chairperson. This one place had it up to 25 people that were on this committee, and that kind of helps with delegating out the work so that one person isn't always in charge. So, and this committee could be in charge of a lot of things. Mayor, like they could be in charge of helping putting the grant together for T-Mobile. They could be in charge, help try to market different things that are going out in town. So you could split up one event into multiple people, and it just becomes very easier for everyone.
It brings one committee together so we can continue to do more community events, and getting out there and having this committee would be really beneficial in Morrisville. We see how sometimes the organization is not the best, so this is a step forward to try and get some more organized events for us to continue them on year after year. We have many different things. We all have different ideas, and this committee will help us bring them all together and also help fund these events as well. Go out and look for funds from businesses, from residents out there who want to support whatever event they would like to support. So I really think this would be beneficial to Morrisville.
Can I ask another question, President Halal? So currently we have 2 events that were approved and voted on by council that currently has been run through the Parks and Recreation Committee. Are you going to move those over to the advisory committee, or would that be next year? What is your thought on this?
I didn't really give that much thought. You guys were running it, so if you wanted to be involved in the celebration committee, then that would be fine. But if you wanted to stay autonomous, you could do that. I don't even know if there would be residents. I mean, you would need a large number of residents, to create this. So if no resident joins this committee, then, it would be defunct.
So for this year, we would continue on with.
Yes.
So is there a Parks and Recreation Committee?
All committees are standing. I've been researching different municipalities. So I don't know what the issue was with there are no committees. The committees are what they were, and it's on the calendar. And the only committee that I did remove was the policy committee, because that was being done internally by our internal staff.
Okay.
So,
thank you for that update, because I was a little confused.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that you telling me that. So as of right now, we're going to continue, the Parks and Recreation Committee is, as I understand, is going to continue with the 2 we've gotten, and I've got budgets for those tonight.
Okay.
So we'll do the food and truck festival, and we'll do the Irish festival that's been approved.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. It makes it much easier for me. And I'm a little less stressed.
Yeah, don't be stressed. Go ahead, Melissa.
You mentioned the budget for this CAC. Are they getting a budget? Will they? So, okay. So whatever funds they happen to raise are theirs.
So if somebody comes along and says they want to have a parade, then you would have to figure out how you're going to fund the parade. So this isn't something that you're going to start and have next month. This is something where you're thinking this year for next year. So if you do come into a situation where, you know, you're short $200, you can come to council and request it, but, you know, council wants to see your budget, what you're doing, et cetera.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. So I was also thinking, because there was something I was mulling about, and I know I spoke with you, Melissa, about it, of having a group with realtors that would kind of try to market the town and try to draw businesses, and not necessarily businesses in the town, but try to figure out what are their empty spaces and how we could fill them. But I was thinking that maybe this celebration committee would incorporate that, because it really is about marketing as well as having events. So, you know, it could be whatever you want it to be. So, anybody else? Do you want?
This is a good idea. That's how I see it. I don't know if we should discuss it. I think the committees is a good idea.
Okay, great.
That, especially, like I said, looking for funding. There's so many things that we need to work on and getting to work together.
Correct. Yeah, and this is not council people doing this. This is not headed by anyone on council. This is the residents. So there was some commentary on Facebook, and I just wanted to make that clear. This is a resident committee, although if there are people on council that want to be in there, they are certainly welcome to, but they will not be the chairperson or the vice chairperson. They will be helping the committee or advising the committee or helping the committee figure out how to navigate some things. So if anybody has any issues, then we'll put it on the agenda for next month, or can we approve it now? How does that work? Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda next month to approve. That's great. I hope there are residents out there that are willing to join. Mayor's comments.
Good evening, everyone. So first, I'm pleased to begin by extending a warm welcome to our newest officers joining the team. Over the past year, our department has experienced a significant turnover. However, with the addition of a new part-time officer back in December, along with the 3 individuals we recently sworn in, I'm optimistic that we're turning a corner. These new additions show positive change for our department, and I eagerly anticipate what the future holds. If you happen to encounter our latest officers while out and about, I encourage you to take a moment and greet them and extend a hearty Morrisville welcome. I also want to thank the Civil Service Commission for all their hard work with getting the 3 new officers, and then also with our new hiring process that just went out. And I encourage you all to share so we can get another 15 great officers to apply for us so we have a pick. Additionally, I'd like to talk about an important initiative happening this week, the Buy a Slice, Give a Slice program. In collaboration with the Interfaith Food Alliance and Bella Sicily, we're striving to combat childhood hunger and food insecurity within our community. For every slice purchased from this past Saturday, April 13th, until this upcoming Saturday, April 20th, Bella Sicily will generously donate a slice to a family in need. Furthermore, every 8 slices purchased will equate to a full pizza pie. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all who have already supported this cause, and I encourage those who haven't yet participated to indulge in some delicious pizza while supporting families in need. I kindly remind everyone to turn off non-essential outdoor lights during the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. As a certified bird town, this simple act will encourage our feathered friends continue to visit our community year after year without disruption to the migration patterns. It is also National Volunteer Month, and then we are also coming up on National Volunteer Appreciation Week, which starts on April 21st and runs through April 27th. What a great way to kick that off would be to come out on April 21st, which is Sunday, to help us with the tree planting event down in Williamson Park. It is because all the volunteers out there that come out and support is the reason why we're able to do so much here in Morrisville, and we're looking to get more volunteers to come out and support. To touch on that committee is all going to be volunteers as well. So the more volunteers we have, the more we can do for our community. It's time to work together so we can move Morrisville forward. Thank you for your attention, support, and dedication to making Morrisville a better place for all its residents.
Thank you, Mayor. Any council member comments? Yes.
Two things. First, next week is primary, so I encourage all registered voters to get out and vote in the primary. The second, some constituents have been expressing their, well, basically their desire to have clarification on the state of Williamson Park and its, well, essentially its legacy, but it has come to my attention that there are some things out there in the community that are not clarified. I would hope that, and the solicitor and I have talked about this a few times now, either one, solicitor, if you might expand on that clarification now or maybe next month. Also, if it is also my understanding that there are certain guarantees to other open spaces in the borough that are necessarily granted to Williamson Park, and how those guarantees either might be granted to Williamson Park or you know, what is in place that does guarantee that that space will remain open.
Yeah, there's in a Commonwealth Act, we're one of the few states that actually has it, or Commonwealth, the Donated Dedicated Property Act, which protects parkland. And in order for anything to happen, any part that we own, meaning the borough, not the church groups that we have a deal with, that we can use, but that we actually own, are protected by the Donated and Dedicated Property Act, which means you can't do anything with it other than keeping it a park. I mean, you could improve it without court order. And by a court order, you'd have to show that it's something, whatever. You have to have a very high standard. It's not easily approved. We have one now. Bristol Township has one now where there was a piece of land, it's a small acre, like an acre, that they're giving to a developer, but they're getting back something 5 or 10 times more valuable. And even that, which is an amazing deal, and everyone it's unanimously approved by the council and everybody in Bristol Township, still has to be approved by a court, even in that case. So the park is protected. Nothing's going to happen to the park. There's no plans for the park, and I don't know why people are concerned. They have no need to be concerned. It's protected by the act.
Hey, thank you.
Committee updates? Catherine?
Thank you, President. I appreciate that. We had a Parks and Recreation Committee meeting on March 24th. It was here. We had several people attended. Thank you, Judith was there, Peggy Walsh, Annie Malonis, Debbie Colgan, Dawn Chronicle, Anna Langer, and Marie Kelso. Update on the tree planting proceeding, meeting with John later to determine placement, and that has been done. Update on park events, food and music festival in July, and Irish festival approved by the council, budget to be provided to the council for the events for approval. And I do have a budget, if you can take those and pass it down. I just have the 2 events because that's all that was approved. The food and truck event, last year I did all the posters, color out of my pocket. I did budget some money for that. Morrisville Times ad for all of our events. The band is being paid for by our Economic Development Corporation. And the other event was the Irish Festival, and it's a total, the the bands, the face painter, Irish dancers, the singers, balloon man, bouncy house, children's games, and also posters. We have a total of what I've budgeted, $2,347. What we were given was $10,000, and I said we probably would never use that. So that's what I'm looking at for these events. The Food and Truck Festival will be getting vendors and food trucks, not really vendors, but food trucks there. And then the Irish Festival, there will be vendors and stuff that revenue will go to the borough. Any questions? Helen, did you have a question?
Judith is going to answer it.
Oh, okay.
Ask it or explain it.
Council President asked me if I would explain the $10,000 in the budget.
Okay.
So the $10,000 that is in the budget is for any events at the park, not specifically just for Parks and Recreation. So I was asked to explain that. So if you did want $5,000 or $2,000, that would be the reason to ask for it.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I would ask that out of that $10,000 budget, if we could do the porta potties for the, like we've had in the past. And I think that came out of my budget last year, or I guess the council budget.
I was just going to say, I believe that the porta potties do come out of that line item.
Yes.
Correct.
So, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Did you have a question?
I have a question. So when you mentioned the porta potties, are you saying that amount in addition to this $2,300 that we see?
That would be, well, yeah, I guess. So, and I don't know what that is. Judith can give us information later on. But that would be for all the summer events there.
So that would be for,
well, there's
these two or for
all the events. So you have, you'll have, I mean, Judith can tell us more, but we have a lot of people that rent for different events, such as there's a summer camp that goes on there, and National Night Out, and summer movies in the park, and all of that. That I don't pay for out of my budget.
So, okay, I'm just looking for clarification then. I get that there's a $10,000 budget for the park. Of that $10,000, Parks and Recreation, and anyone else gets to ask for a portion. So what I thought I was understanding here was roughly $2,500 Parks and Recreation is currently asking for out of that $10,000 budget.
Exactly.
Plus the cost of whatever the porta potties are. Anybody else who is doing a summer camp, National Night Out, whatever, they're going to ask for money out of the balance of the $10,000 that's left after Parks and Recreation extracts.
We don't know that,
gets
but
approved for.
We don't know that, but yes, you can. It can be asked for.
Okay.
Yes. So if the mayor wanted to have an event, he could ask for funds coming from that line item.
Right.
He could ask the same thing, put in an application like everyone else did.
Okay.
So it's not just limited to Parks and Recreation. Mayor, I'm just using you as an example because I know you have something coming up, and I don't know.
It became a longer question for me when we brought up other entities asking for the porta potty. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly what's being asked for, because I think we talked about like $200 or $300 last month, but now we see 10 times as much now. Not that that's a problem. I'm just asking. Just want to get clarification.
You're right. And I said, I was caught off guard, and I said, and I said that I would have to give a more thorough and detailed.
Well, in all fairness, $200 to $300 doesn't seem adequate, but now we have it, and I just want them to understand, because when you mention the porta potties and other groups use it, I would think it would be in their request, they'd be giving us something similar and saying, hey, I need porta potties too, or whatever, but I'm doing this event, this is how much I need. So if I'm understanding what's in front of us now regarding this committee is out of the $10,000 budget for using the park, Parks and Recreation has 2 events, and they're asking for roughly $2,500 of the 10.
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And Catherine, I'm not sure. I thought you asked for $1,000 for something?
For jazz, and then 100 for the food and truck festival.
Okay, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I thought it was 1,000 for the Irish festival.
What'd I say?
Jazz.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just want to be clear.
It's almost 9:00, you guys.
I'm just trying to be clear.
Thank you.
So you see why I end up with questions, because I'm like, wait a minute, hold on.
And I can't remember how much was approved right now. That's why I'm remembering 1,000, and
I
I'm
asked
saying, is that enough?
And I asked, no, it's not going to be enough, and can I have permission to submit a more detailed expenditure list?
Correct. And I don't know.
I get that this will have to be to the next month's council meeting.
That's fine.
Yeah, we can't add anything.
Oh, no, I just wanted to give it to you to let you know that you had it.
That's fine.
Thank you, I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Can we ask them, prior to next month, can we just, do we know what the porta potty, do we need that, or?
No.
We don't, okay, thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Any other committee reports? Okay, motion to adjourn.
I have a question to ask council.
Motion is adjourned.
Well, I'm getting an award for 25 years of service as borough manager, and I'm asked to come to the PSAB Association networking conference in June 2nd through the 5th at Hershey. And I was hoping that council would endorse me and to go and take care of that, as we usually do for council members. And I had asked council president that prior to the meeting ending. Thank you. Nice.
So, Madam President, does that need to?
Yes. Unfortunately, I just received it yesterday in the mail, and I have to respond no later than April 19th.
I'm sure.
Just a clarification is that we have money set aside by law for you to attend and any other council people who wanted to attend. So,
You know, and again, I am a stickler for saying we have to have everything on the agenda. I just received this, April 15th. I have to respond no later than April 19th.
Oh, wow.
So I normally would not ask. Yeah.
Yeah.